Hello and welcome to the presentation by group number 3 for the foundation course. Today we are talking about the global supply chain crisis that engulfed the world post the coronavirus pandemic. But before we get to the crisis itself, let us first understand what a supply chain is. The supply chain is a network between a company and its consumers which helps the distribution of the product or the service. It is the flow of information, products and funds. The supply chain includes all such factors that help to fulfill the customer's request, namely product development, marketing, operations, etc. A supply chain includes a lot of people. It includes multiple players like the retailers and wholesalers, thousands of workers, and multiple modes of transport starting from seaways to airways. A delay in any one point of the supply chain can take the supply chain off course by days or even months. And when there is a crisis at several points in the chain, the supply chain may even collapse. So what is this crisis? It started in China in 2020 when the coronavirus spread through the country and factories had to be closed down. As the virus spread through countries, so did lockdowns. Factories were shut, workers were sent home, and production was halted. By 2021, as restrictions eased, common people started shopping and demand skyrocketed, while the factories had not fully opened yet, creating a shortage of supply. Let us take a look at the facts of the matter. 90% of the global trade happens through sea routes. The rise in demand led to the rise in cost of shipping, and the costs of shipping rose by 85.5% year on year. The average door-to-door shipping time for cargo throughout the world increased by 70 days. Cargo worth billions was stranded on the ports of the world without proper logistics to unload, warehouse, or to transport them. I now invite Prachi to explain to you the objectives of the study.
Our objective is to understand the impact of COVID-19 on logistic and supply chain in India, understand the effects of pandemic on the financial aspect in India, to understand the influence of pandemic on the international trade and how normal new can impact the economy.
The project includes both primary and secondary information sources. We started off with a Google form survey with which we understood the opinions of the consumers. Those responses were analyzed and studied before making the presentation. We've used multiple informative websites and multiple business magazines and newspapers like Harvard Business Review, Economic Times, and Business Standard to elevate our understanding about the topic. Now I invite Prachi to talk about the impact of COVID-19 on the global supply chain.
The COVID-19 pandemic is not the first disaster that abruptly damaged global supply chain. Several other natural catastrophes such as the 2011 mega earthquake in Japan, the 2013 SARS outbreak in China, and the 2004 tsunami in Indonesia has led the shortage of part and product. It is worth nothing that the product is recovered from this disaster in a matter of weeks. However, as shown in the figure, based on the scope and magnitude, the impact of COVID-19 are different from the other all previous events. The pandemic has substantial negative effect on supply chain. Certain sectors fared worse than others, but some life science company reported few effects. It is not surprising then that only 2% of the company who responded to the survey said that they were fully prepared for the pandemic. Serious disruption affected 75% with 72% reporting a negative impact. There were some clear winners by industry during the pandemic with 11% reporting positive impact including increased customer demand 71% and bring new product to the market. COVID-19 has presented a unique situation in which to observe how these various systems and processes respond to acute severe stress and change. It has also shown a spotlight on the importance of investing in supply chain reliances to build stronger long-term operations. Thank you.
Now, let us see the major global supply chain disruptions. The pipelines of global supply chains from raw material supply to delivery of products were heavily affected by the COVID-19 pandemic, and the disruptions were observed during all phases of the supply chain as shown in the figure below. So let us see how the supply chain, logistics and the demand were affected. Disrupted supply chain. First, high-tech products. The high-tech industries covering products such as smartphone, headsets, and other tech accessories had their supply chains tangled by shortages of various parts. Due to this, companies like Samsung, LG had to suspend their production in different parts of the world. Automotive parts. Most of the main automobile manufacturers were experiencing production shutdowns in different parts of the world, which led to a drop by 13% in the global automotive industry production. Medicines and medical devices. India had played a central role as a supplier of COVID-19 medications. However, Indian companies were facing severe shortages of materials because of the suspended production of their suppliers in China. Now let us see the disrupted international logistics. Shortages in the labor force. The logistics sector suffered from lack of workers throughout all stages of the supply chain, as both white collar and blue collar laborers, as well as vital roles in the supply chain, were unable to perform their duties as they were unavailable due to the quarantine restrictions or infections. Shutdown of commercial aviation. The shutdown of commercial aviation severely limited air cargo capacities, making it harder to move supplies around the world. As a result, the international trade was severely affected. Now let us see the distorted demand in different parts of the world. Drugs and medicines. The demand for drugs such as hydroxychloroquine and common drugs such as cough and cold medications, mainly caused by panic buying leading to higher than normal demand, had disrupted the medical supply system. PPE and ventilators. As a response to the COVID-19 pandemic, there was a soaring demand for PPE, such as surgical masks, gloves, and surgical coveralls. Almost all the countries experienced severe shortages of these consumables. Retailing activities. With COVID-19 dominating the headlines, panic behavior prompted consumers to buy products such as toilet paper and consumer products in huge quantities, leading to large-scale shortages everywhere. Thank you.
Indeed, a very detailed information, Harshit. Morning all. Now I'm going to talk about the big upcoming changes in the supply chain. The very first change here was the introduction of artificial intelligence and automation. The use of artificial intelligence, or we can call it as AI, and automation is on the rise in many supply chains. Automation allows you to streamline and to perform repetitive tasks in a very streamlined and a very smooth way, while AI attempts to mimic human intelligence and learn, can assist with more complex and challenging tasks. Second point here is increased focus on sustainability. As a growing number of customers prioritize the environment, more businesses have increased their sustainable efforts, which are now seeping into the supply chain. Because there are so many different opportunities to focus on sustainability, you need to tailor your efforts to suit the unique need of your organization. Third one here is customization. Increasing customization becomes more realistic as you work on improving other aspects of your supply chain. For instance, you may find it easier to manage personalized customer orders if you can automate your order processing systems. Perhaps putting standard orders in one area and personalized one in another. Fourth one here is digitalization. Experts believe that digitalization can make sure your entire supply chain becomes more streamlined, smooth, and dynamic, all of which are highly beneficial for your organization's bottom line. Thank you.
The digital and autonomous future of the global supply chain. First of all, investment will be high in technology and consideration on sustainability. As supply chains are reviewed, development in technologies and sustainability should also be considered. The COVID-19 pandemic has shown that many different ways business can continue to effectively communicate within a remote working environment, and which the companies are likely going to focus going forward. Second, the use of blockchain will be very important. Blockchain-driven innovations in supply chain will have the tremendous value by increasing supply chain transparency, reducing risk, improving efficiency, and overall supply chain management. Digitization in the supply chain will enable faster delivery of essential goods. COVID-19 has uncovered several weaknesses in the corporate strategies, including inefficient and ineffective supply chain management. This became more evident when the delay of essential supplies like PPE kits and masks put lives at risk, resulting in crucial need for supply chain digitization. There is a need for holistic analysis of the future supply chain. In the future, companies will need to undertake more holistic analysis, which may lead to more drastic changes, such as moving supply chains nearby or to a different nation, as well as increasing the digitization of the supply chains in view of creating a more sustainable operation for the future. The future supply chain processes will be highly automated. The next generation of supply chains is based on advanced technologies like artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, and robot process automation, and has the potential to transform manual repetitive tasks into highly automated processes with superior performance. Through 2023, demand for robotic goods and person-to-person systems will quadruple to reduce the contact of people in the warehouses.
Survey questions. So first, are you aware of the term global supply chain? So most of the people, that is 60.5%, are aware of the term global supply chain. Second, what is the type of impact of COVID-19 on the global supply chain? So most of the people have no idea, but some think 39.5% think it is falling, and 15.8% think it is rising. Next question, have you experienced a surge in the prices of consumer products due to demand supply imbalance? So most of the people agree, that is 55.3%. Next question, has your dependency on online shopping increased due to overall shortage of products? So most of the people strongly agree, that is 50% of the people agree. Next question, the change in global supply chain affects the GDP of the country gradually. So most of the people agree, that is 55.3% agree. Next, do you think there will be a rise in the global supply chain in near future? So most of the people think there will be a rise in the global supply chain, that is 52.6%.
Now, we group members have given some suggestions on how to improve the supply chain. Now, according to me, the companies should take a holistic approach. They should create a formal response plan for dealing with potential supply chain disruptions. They should be able to identify risks and prioritize them on the basis of their potential impact on the supply chain or the overall ecosystem. Thank you.
The COVID-19 pandemic helped organizations to identify various weaknesses in their supply chains. Supply chain networks are rife with repeatable and process-oriented. Automation is an effective way of enhancing existing supply chain processes and introducing new ones. Thank you.
My suggestion is that the business must navigate the financial and operation challenges of coronavirus by rapidly addressing the needs of their people, customer, and supplier by taking the right action. Supply chain leader can turn massive complexity and supply chain disruption into meaningful changes. Thank you.
My suggestion is to diversify the supply base. The obvious way to address the heavy dependence on one medium or high risk source is to diversify the supply in different locations which are not vulnerable to the same risk. The pandemic has motivated many firms to take the China plus one strategy of spreading production between China and the Southeast Asian countries such as Vietnam, Indonesia, or Thailand. Thank you.
I believe that countries need to emphasize on forming better global partnerships. Long-term solutions require an understanding of interplay between a lot of factors such as manufacturing and the need for collaboration and innovation. Global partnerships like Quad and self-reliance by countries can help make the supply chain balanced instead of resting all the power on a single country.
My suggestion would be leveraging advanced technologies such as the Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, robotics, and 5G DSNs are designed to anticipate and meet future challenges. Whether it is a black swan event like COVID-19, trade war, act of war, or terrorism, regulatory change, labor dispute, sudden spikes in demand, or supplier bankruptcy, organizations that deploy DSNs will be ready to deal with the unexpected.
To conclude our project, suddenly changing the supply chain is not easy. However, in the near future, companies will have to seek a more diversified supplier base while looking to develop a flexible and cost-efficient supply chain. In the long term, however, companies will need to go for a more holistic analysis and make changes like moving their supply chain nearby or to different countries and digitalization to create more sustainable operations in the future. Thank you.